Eskom employee Dorothy Mmushi is reportedly living in fear after an alleged hitman told her that he'd been offered 400,000 rand to kill her. The whistleblower has told the city press that a senior executive at the utility is out for blood after she reported cartel operations to police. Mmushi joins us tonight to talk more about this situation. A very good evening to you, ma'am. Grateful for your time. For the benefit of those who may have not seen the piece in the city press today, can you detail what has been unfolding in your life in recent weeks?
Good evening to the viewers. Good evening, Tembegile. What has unfolded in the past couple of weeks is quite traumatic. I've been contacted by a hitman who has told me that he has been looking at me and that he's been paid to assassinate me by certain individuals. And the sad part about this is that he mentions that my boss is involved in the contract to have me assassinated. It's sad because this is to do with my work. I'm now being threatened for doing the work that I've been employed to do by Eskom and by protecting the public interest, by fighting fraud and corruption at Eskom.
And what were you investigating, and what exactly did you uncover? Because I understand it's to do with the operations of cartels within Eskom, an issue that had been broached even by the now former CEO, Andre Dorothy, in the now controversial interview.
That is correct. I'm part of a team at Forensics. I'm actually part of the fixed-term contract forensic investigators, and we have been investigating fraud and corruption that relates to tenders and widespread fraud at Eskom. So what has happened is that I myself, in actual fact, have identified which cartels are operating within the Eskom space, and I have also identified who's been assisting them. And as a result of this, I have suffered prejudice. I've been threatened by even law enforcement to a point that I was unlawfully arrested for having put my finger on the cartels and requesting law enforcement to actually arrest these cartel individuals. So it's a whole cartel that also...
Are you able to tell us who is part of these cartels?
It's suppliers, it's individuals that are based in Mpumalanga. I'm not at liberty to divulge the name of these companies at this point. But it's cartels. Some of them Andre Dorothy has touched on during his interview, but I'm sure he also did not mention the names of these cartels. But law enforcement has these names, and the surprising thing is nothing is being done. I've been at the tail end of trying to make sure that these people are brought to account. And as a result of doing that, I myself have been threatened. At the time, I was not aware that my boss was involved in this. It's now that I'm aware that it's actually shocking for me.
And are you able to tell us, I know you can't give us names, but what it is that these companies were supplying? Is it coal?
These are not cartels that are involved in the coal space. These are cartels that supply things that are used at the power stations. It's people that are normally awarded purchase orders to supply material at our power stations.
And what did you find they were doing exactly that was illegal?
What I have discovered is that these people would have purchase orders and they would invoice Eskom for work that has not been done.
Is there a figure for how much that would have cost the utility?
This goes into almost billions. I mean, this is fraud that has been happening for over the past 3 to 4 years. People have tried to investigate these particular suppliers. They've previously been investigated, but nothing has come of those forensic investigations.
And who within Eskom was assisting them? You mentioned your boss, who even from my reading of the City Press article today has not been named.
Yes, at this stage, his name has been withheld for legal reasons. But I've got reason to believe the hitman because of what I've suffered at the hands of my boss. And this is not only me. This also relates to the team within forensics at Eskom who have suffered under the leadership of this particular individual. So to me, it did not come as a surprise when this hitman mentioned that my boss is in collusion with these suppliers.
What has the rest of the team suffered? I'll get to the conversation with the Hitman in a moment, but I want to understand what the rest of your team has suffered. I mean, if you were being followed, as I understand it, by someone who says he was hired to kill you, what were the experiences of the other investigators?
The experiences are mostly from this particular boss of ours who was leading our team in terms of bullying, in terms of victimization. And there's also been instances of allegations where he has forced investigators to change the findings of forensic reports. There's been countless grievances against this particular individual, but he's never been caused to account for his actions.
Is he the only person within the department, within Eskom, where you are based, who would have been involved, allegedly, in these crimes?
At this stage, based on what the Hitman has mentioned, he's the only individual that's been mentioned internally who is working in collusion with the suppliers that are defrauding Eskom.
And what did your investigations find as far as the involvement of Eskom executives in particular, and perhaps other employees at other levels, in the success of these cartels in allegedly ripping off the utility, stealing basically?
Some of our investigation findings have indicated who internally has been working with these suppliers, because obviously for suppliers to be able to defraud Eskom and to be paid for work that has not been done, that would definitely involve internal staff members. Mm-hmm. So we have identified who are the internal people, but the sad thing is that the system is not assisting. I mean, you would issue a forensic report and that particular individual will still remain in the system because they were found not guilty at a disciplinary hearing. So that is the sad fight that we have experienced, in that we do everything to make sure that we do our investigations and a forensic report is issued. But the sad part is the same individuals who are internal still enjoy being in the employ of Eskom, even after having been involved in fraudulent activities. And
are we speaking, Dorothy, about regional or national executives within Eskom?
Well, it relates to people at certain levels. At this stage, I don't want to mention that. But we have picked up that certain individuals have been in collusion with suppliers.
Right. I want to go back then to the issue of the Hitman. From the piece this morning, it was said that he says he basically stalked you, followed you. You were attending an event hosted by a friend. You walked out, you went into your car, and this man, from what he told you, actually watched you while you were on a on your phone, having a conversation, until you drove off. How then does he make contact with you, and why do you believe what he's told you?
Okay, I believe what he has told me because what he has said to me over the phone is in actual fact what transpired when I was at this event. He gives details of how I sat in my car for 10 minutes on a call, and these are things that no one else would know of unless that individual was there. He's further even mentioned the route that I would follow to go to work. He's mentioned personal information such as my vehicles, their registrations, my address. At first, I thought this might be a scam up until he mentioned this detail that I could relate to. So for me, I then picked up that this person was not scamming me. It is in actual fact a reality. Mm-hmm. For me, I believe that this hitman most likely is calling me because he wants money from me. He was unable to complete the work that he's been asked to do, so therefore he's now trying to extort money from me and has actually requested me to pay him so that he can go and kill the individuals that have asked him to assassinate me.
How does the conversation even get to that point? I mean, it's chilling enough to hear that someone would receive a call from someone who says, listen, I was hired to kill you, but if you pay me, I can kill the other party. How do we get to that point, and how much would he have wanted you to pay for an exchange hit, for want of a better phrase?
We didn't get to a point of mentioning how much he would expect me to pay him, but he did mention that he was offered 400,000 to kill me and that he was only paid 50,000. And on completion of his job, he would then be paid the remainder. So I take it that because he was unable to pay the remainder, he was then abandoned by the people who had hired him. And that's why he's now wanting me to be involved in this assassination plot.
Did you ask him why he didn't kill you? I mean, the one incident where he sat in the car next to yours, as we now believe, he had 10 minutes to do it, yet he didn't.
Yes, I did. He actually mentioned that the only reason that he didn't kill me was because I'm female, and that as a hitman, he doesn't want to dirty his hands by killing a woman. For me, his explanation does not hold water, because why would a hitman take on a job to assassinate a female and then decide at last minute that he's not going to complete the job?
Do you believe now, Dorothy, that if not this man, another person may be contracted to kill you?
Yes, that is my biggest fear. Because for me, if he was hired, and he even mentioned that there was a team from KZN before him that was requested to assassinate me, and these individuals had failed in locating me. So he was then brought on, and he was able to find me, but then strangely enough, he was unable to assassinate me. So I do live in fear. My biggest disappointment as well is the fact that Eskom, that I've been working for, has failed to protect me, because I'm suffering these threats as a result of doing work for Eskom. Mm-hmm. However, there's no assistance that I've gotten from Eskom in terms of protecting me. I've had to get my own private security and pay them from my own pocket just to protect myself. And I feel that that is extremely unfair. Whereas you find executives at Eskom that enjoy the protection of security, even though their lives are not at risk. Yet here I am, and I'm suffering as a result of doing my work, yet I'm not getting that protection.
You mentioned Eskom, and you've spoken, you say you've written at least to senior officials there seeking intervention. The City Press has a quote running today from the chairperson of the board, Mpomagwana, and I want to read it to you. He says, "Please report the matter to the police, not to me. Let the police do what must be done." How do you feel about that response from the chairperson of the board?
For me, that is extremely disappointing, because you'd expect someone like the chairperson of the board to take such issues seriously. This is a sensitive matter, and you would expect that he would want to at least be at the forefront of trying to investigate what has happened here, in terms of him maybe summoning an investigation, or even him assisting in terms of protecting me. I've never even received any call from anyone at Eskom to ask me how I'm doing or how I feel about these threats. So for me, that is rather extremely disappointing.
Do you see a future for yourself at Eskom?
No, I don't. My contract has actually expired. All of this happened on the eve of the expiry of my fixed-term contract. My contract with Eskom ended on the 31st of July. But however, I must also mention that when these threats had happened, I was still serving my notice period, and something could have been done. These threats have been reported to my direct line management. It has also been reported to Eskom security, yet I've received no actual support from them.
And I understand you also made contact with the Hawks boss, Godfrey Lebeya. How did that conversation go?
Yes, I have reported the matter to the Hawks. I have reported it to Godfrey Lebeya. He was helpful in that he has summoned an investigation into the matter, but that's as far as it went. There hasn't been anything concrete that has been forthcoming. My life is still under threat. I have not received anything from the SAPS in terms of protection. They've not come back to me to say we've tracked this individual. So that for me is rather disappointing. And I also need to mention that there was a similar incident in the past where the COO of Eskom's life was under threat. And within a very short period, the Hawks were able to find the individuals involved. So for me, I'm asking myself, is this because I'm at the bottom of the food chain at Eskom? So does that mean my life doesn't matter?
Has it then been
I don't know.
worth it? Have your efforts as far as the investigation and what you uncovered, was that worth it given what is now at stake personally for you?
Personally for me, I've taken an oath to be a forensic investigator, and this comes with the job. There will be threats, but as I said, the only disappointing thing is that I'm not getting the support that I should be getting and the protection that I should be getting from Eskom, because I was doing this for Eskom. I'm not getting these threats as a result of my personal interactions out there.
Dorothy
So I would have done it. If given a second chance. I would have still investigated these cartels the way that I did. I would have still opened those criminal cases because I believe that I was doing that for the country. That was in the interest of the country and in the interest of the general population. I mean, we are suffering load shedding. Corruption is one of the reasons why Eskom is failing. And we are experiencing load shedding. The common person on the street is suffering. Our economy is plummeting as a result of corruption at Eskom. So I felt that, yes, as a patriot of this country, it was my responsibility as well to make sure that I fight fraud and corruption, even if it means having had my life at risk.
Dorothy Mmushi, good to speak to you. We hope that you do stay safe. Thank you very much for your time. Former Eskom employee speaking to us there.